Hi, welcome you all. This is Alejandro Feijes speaking. I'm the ICC Community Manager and want to welcome you to this new webinar with Nick Cheong, Maximizing Expatriate Effectiveness Through Coaching in the Global Environment. And we have a few minutes until start, so we can, maybe Nick wants to talk with you and have a quick chat. So just to give you the welcome, and we'll wait a few minutes more until we start. Welcome, Nick. Do you hear us?
Oh yes, loud and clear. Thanks, Alejandro, and thank you everyone for joining us. Well, it's 7 o'clock in Brazil, Sao Paulo, Brasilia, and depending where you are, you could be in the late evening, like somebody in Europe wrote me an email that it would be like 2 a.m. Be too late, or you could be in Asia that you're just waking up. So please tell me where you are from. Click on, let's do a little quick test. On your tab, you would see a little thing, a hand. So you click on there. Let's do a quick test. Click on the hand button to use the raise your hand function. Yes, thank you. My father, thank you. Right. Eva, thank you. Or Iwa, maybe I pronounced you wrongly. Virginia, thank you. Katarina, are you there? Okay. Alba Marina. Right, so before we go into, thank you, Alba Marina. Thank you so much for raising your hand so that I know that you know how to use the functions, because this will be a function that will be useful for the rest of for some of the slides that I'll be using. Good. Right now, so quickly, I would like to see where we are all from now. Could you all use the chat function and send me a quick chat to tell me where you are from? And if you have your microphone available, or you have integrated microphone and speakers available through your laptop or computer, that is even better, because at some point of time I might invite you to participate in some of the exercises we have. Today we have a good 60 minutes, and I will finish by 60 minutes, and that with the last 10 minutes or so for Q&A. Yeah. So if you can just tell me through your chat where you are from, so that I have just have an idea where you are from, that would be great.
We have some answers, Nick. You can find them in the questions.
Okay.
In the questions box. So we received.
Yes. Iwa. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. You're from Poland. Virginia is from Colombia. I think Mafalda, ne? You're from Lisboa? Wow. Okay. They must be quite late there. Alba Caracas. Okay. Cool. Thank you for your for telling me where you're from. Good. I think we should not. It's 11 o'clock in Lisboa. Oof. Okay. Good. Now let's start then. Alejandro, what do you think? It's 3 minutes past 7.
Absolutely, we are on time, so we can make a start then.
Okay then. Good. I think somebody just joined in. We have the 8th person just come in. Sarah. Sarah just came in. Sarah, so if you could just type in where you're from, Sarah, I'll be very grateful. Katarina, would you tell me where you're from as well? Through your quick questions. In the chat box so that I can see it. Right? Sarah from Brazil. Thank you. Good. So let's start. So first of all, what are we talking about today? We are talking about here a very interesting issue in coaching, intercultural coaching. So you are here probably because you are managers who need to lead the international team, or you could be training and a trainer who need to conduct trainings to foreign community, a HR professional who need to manage incoming, existing, or outgoing expatriate staff, or that you have a big pool of international staff to manage within your portfolio. Or you could be an executive who have to work with or report to a foreign boss or a foreigner who, in today's context globally, it's very common that you could be based in Brazil, but you report to Japan, or you could report to USA, and that we are all working in a virtual community here. So this topic about interculturalism, global coaching, intercultural coaching is very relevant for people who have to work with international teams. And of course, people who have been who are working in the area of coaching, this is even a more interesting topic for you, because as more and more people and as more and more business executives get posted abroad or move between different business units, you will find more and more opportunities of coaching foreigners, people who are not based in your country, but find HR professionals wants to find specialized coaches who are able to coach the executive who are working on international assignments, right? And for us, like consultants, I come from Singapore, and my company I'm representing is Berners Consulting. We are a consulting. We help corporations to do business with foreigners. We are based in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Stuttgart of Germany, as well in Shanghai. So basically, a quick shot of what we do. I will talk a little bit more about ourselves a little bit later. And just to go on, a quick definition of what coaching is. Right. So if let me have a show of hand who have done coaching courses or are already practicing coaching in terms of like could be in-house coach, you could be an in-house coach, or could be a professional coach, or that you have received official training in coaching. Raise your hand if you have. Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6. Wow, that's more than 50%. That's good. Okay, and coaching, as you know, help individuals to learn through deep reflections and be aware and responsible for doing things differently to achieve their own objectives. And coaching nowadays is used in all walks of life, especially in helping people to perform better, adapt, and change, especially in their own terms. So life coaching, business coaching, executive coaching, intercultural coaching, expatriate coaching, all these are different forms of coaching. And how would you differentiate one from the other? And what would be different? And someone asked me, in fact, each time I talk about intercultural coaching, expatriate coaching, people ask me this question. Well, it is like having your driver's license. So if you have been trained in coaching, for example, in the ICC Level 1 coaching, you have received your basic driver's license, for example. You can drive your regular car, but if you want to drive a big truck, a bus, or some specialized vehicle, you need to go for extra trainings. And this is exactly what it means here. Intercultural coaching is a form of coaching that comes up from the fundamentals of coaching, but with some extras. So today we're going to explore what are these extras. Right. So now you could lower your hands. So unless you have a question for me, raise up your hands. Okay. Thank you. Right. And the elements of coaching are awareness, asking, accountability, and finally action. And it's very important that we recognize that in every coaching session, the structure, you need to go through this. And no matter how different the coaching school you come from, you have to be aware of all these important elements. And if you do not have a good fundamentals training in this area, I would advise that you start thinking about your core competency in coaching, the elements in coaching, because the core competency of any coach are all these areas: asking, probing, getting the clients to be accountable, and finally making a decision for action. Right. A little bit about myself. Right. My name is Nick Cheong, and this is how I look like. Right. Right. For my name, for my family name Cheong, you probably notice that I'm Asian. I'm originally from Singapore, and I'm currently the director for in coaching, intercultural, and diversity practice for Berners Consulting. Berners Consulting, we are a boutique consulting company specializing in project management for helping companies across different countries to do business with one another. And in my area, I specialize in helping our clients to in overcoming intercultural difficulties. And in the process, I'm also an international ICC trainer. I conduct ICC training, and I specialize in intercultural issues. I'm born in Singapore, and I have worked all over in Asia, Hong Kong, China, Indonesia, Malaysia. And I used to work, before I come to live permanently now in Sao Paulo, I used to live and work in Germany. So I started off my career in sales and marketing, and I did work in IT management, supply chain management. So global supply chain issues are also one of my areas that are very close to my heart, because I spent a lot of years working in these issues. And today I am specializing only in doing coaching and training, and helping executives across across different countries, continents, to work with one another, especially when they are involved with joint ventures, M&As, and acquisition process, or buying out a company, or simply in a market entry process, where we work a lot as in Berners Consulting. As I said, we offer management consulting, and a lot of times our practice in intercultural coaching, interculturalism, and training help our clients from Germany, Brazil, and China work better. So enough about this little bit of promotion and commercial break about us. I'll now plunge in to the core of today's training. Right. My expectation for you today is to have an open mind, be curious about the issues that I will be talking about, and please, if you are online now, close your MSN, close your Skype, and stop all this chatting in between as well, because this might interrupt your learning process today, and we only have 60 minutes with us. Now we have probably, what, 50 minutes? And most important as well, let's have some fun. So let's look at the agenda today. Who is an expatriate? And then we will look at the issues facing the expatriate, intercultural issues and expatriate coaching, and some skills involved in expatriate coaching. Right. First of all, who is an expatriate? Right. So Alba Marina, would you like to lower your hand first, so that we can start this polling? Yeah, please lower your hand, Alba Marina. Just click on the icon on your hand, so that, yeah, thank you. Right, so let's look at some of the basic assumptions and definition of an expatriate. So raise your hand to yes and no. So executives who are on a short-term assignment, less than a year, their spouse and children stay at home, do not involve moving of home fixtures. Do you consider this type of executive as an expatriate? Raise your hand to say yes. Ah, good. Right. So far, nobody. Now raise your hand if you say no. So we have 1, 2, 3. Good. 3 of 6, we have 50%. Good. The answer for this is no. What about this one here? Who is an expatriate? So expatriate is, raise your hand yes if you think this is yes. executive who return to the place of residence on a regular basis, example every 2 weeks or every month. Their spouse and children do not travel together, and they involve in international commuting. Raise your hand if you think that this type of executive, business executive, are considered expatriate. Right, no hands raised. Now, raise your hand if you think they are no. This type of executives are not considered expatriates. Raise your hands now. Okay, 1. We have 3, 4. Yes. So we have more than 50% of the people who say that this type of executive are also not considered expatriate. Right. According to academics and HR definition of expatriate, these are also not considered expatriates because, well, if you go back to your country on a very regular basis, then where's the fun, right, as being an executive expatriate? So the next one here, next page. Ooh, what happened here? Hey. Okay, the next one here. So raise your hand now if you think that an expatriate is an executive who relocate home to another country for more than a year, bring their spouse and children, home fixtures in a container, and that, you know, conduct local tax reporting, and issues like cannot evade host country culture by going home. So in a way, stuck. I'm stuck with you for a while, for at least more than a year. Yeah. So raise your hand if you think, yes, this is the correct profile of an expatriate. Good. Yes, we have more than, I think 80% of the polling here, for people who raise their hand, say that this is the right profile of an expatriate. And yeah, I would also agree with you. All the academic and researchers define an expatriate as executives with all these profiles. Mainly, the point is that you move your whole entire family of your whole and your belongings from where you used to live in, your residence, and that you have to conduct local tax reporting. And very important is also the stress of not able to evade the host country culture. You can't just say you drop everything and you decide to go home, because you can't. So this is what typically an expatriate is like. So now that we've seen who is an expatriate, what are the profile that describe an expatriate, let's look at the next slide here, and that I hope that my computer will respond. Well, okay. And what is your idea of an expatriate now? Man, woman? Just think about this. Is it normally a man, a woman? What would be their age group like? When you consider an expatriate, what are the kind of impression you have on that expatriate? Where would he or she be likely to come from? And you notice, even of my own language, I pause a little bit to say he, and then I say he or she. In actual fact, in today's global environment, an expatriate is no longer a special job just for men. I know a lot of expatriates who are women, and husbands now decide to tag along with their wife because the wife have better job opportunities, and why not? And instead of in the last 20 years ago, expatriates, like people who work in the embassies, for example, when they're posted overseas, they are predominantly males. But who are we to say that an expatriate should be a male? That's not true anymore. There are, if you have a chance to visit embassies like New Zealand, Australia, the Great Britain, and all developed countries from Europe, expatriates can be a woman. and that the directors in immigration department, they are also can be women. And then do they move along with their spouse? Oh yeah. And that the age group, it can be anything now, because right now the world has become so much smaller, not because of the physical size and the space, but because of the ease of traveling. Air travel and that transparency in information has made us a lot more mobile than 20 years ago. And if you think of the country, who can be, what is the kind of image you have of an expatriate? No longer it is from just your white man, or your white male, or your people from the Swiss or from US, from Europe. It can be from anywhere. And in Sao Paulo, just for your information, there are a lot of Chinese from very well-trained executives from China. Now that China now has become one of a very powerful economy, they are now extending their resources and also going international. And the only way to do that is to send their executive abroad. So an expatriate can come from any country. And this is something I want you to put in mind as well. If you have in the past a fixed idea of who an expatriate should be, think again, because today in the global economy, it is no longer what it used to be 20 years ago. Just for your information, Berners Consulting, we had in Germany, we did a study on the Chinese companies going into Europe in the last 1.5 years to 2 years. Our study had shown that in the past, Chinese, what happened was in the past, German companies would invest in China so that to look for cheaper source of labor, cheaper source of manufacturing. But now the trends are reversing, and Chinese companies are now entering into the Europe market. And how they do it is that they would station themselves in Germany as a springboard to access to the rest of the market. And that the whole economy is changing, the whole phase and the whole idea of how we do business with foreigners are changing, because no longer we see developed countries going into developing countries. Now more and more companies from developing countries are going into developed market, because especially with the global crisis going on, I think there are a lot of other opportunities for developing countries, companies based in developing countries to enter mature market and developed market. Right. So now that we talked about the definition, who is an expatriate. Now let's look at some of the issues facing an expatriate. Right. Today's webinar talks have a title: Maximizing Expatriate Effectiveness. So if you think back about this statement I put up here as example, this medication is extremely effective for what? A headache. And when somebody says, "Whoa, she's a very effective teacher." She's a very effective teacher. I paused there a little bit because my screen wobbled a little bit. Sorry for that. Okay, and effective means what? To be successful, achieving the results that you want. And in the above two statements, the medication is considered effective because it cures your headache. A teacher is considered to be very effective because it helps the student to learn, or it helps to control the behavior of the students in class very well, and promote a very good learning environment for the students. So in that way, you define this person as a very effective teacher. But what do you think about an expatriate now? What would you say Um, well, next slide, please. Yeah. What would you say is the definition for the effectiveness for an expatriate? What areas should an expatriate be effective in to be considered an effective as an effective expatriate? What he or she should do, and for who? Really, it boils down to these two basic questions. And that when we look at some of the activities that a regular expatriate engage in, and that you see this screen here, right. Alejandro, tell me what slide that you're seeing now. Let me see, because I had a pause on my screen.
Yeah.
Do you see the slide saying issues affecting expatriate effectiveness?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Some of the issues affecting the effectiveness of an expatriate is task effectiveness. Well, getting the job done. I mean, for crying out loud, sometimes you say, well, this guy has been sent all the way from head office, and he's supposed to be the technical expert in solving this technical issue. Well, please fix it, because we need your knowledge transfer. So in this case, an expatriate could be sent to a country to do a knowledge transfer, because he is considered a technical expert in his field of work. And if he is employed as a manager, as the chief financial controller, then he managed the finance side. Or if he's sent from the head office to manage the local office in terms of operations, then his task effectiveness is being defined by the P&L, the profit and loss, the market share, and how he managed the team locally to reach all the corporate objectives. And some of the other areas that inevitably that head office will judge an expatriate's effectiveness are the following as well. Personal adjustments, whether he or she continue to have language difficulty that will impede him from integrating with the local team, and the kind of interpersonal stress he himself or she herself is going through and is putting on to the local team, and how well he or she handle future-related stress. Well, simply put, the expatriate is only there for that period of time. They are not there forever. And when I think back, when I first started my career, I moved from Singapore to Hong Kong for a summer internship program with Hong Kong Shanghai Bank. For me, it was very clear. It's 3 months and then time's up and I go home. And the next stage, when I was sent from Singapore to Germany, the contract was originally for 2 years. But you know what? I stayed there for 5 years. And as such, whenever I think about this, about future-related stress, it is very important how the expatriate handle this kind of future uncertainty regarding his or her career development in the corporations, because you are sent, as an expatriate, you are sent overseas to, for a specific reason, could be knowledge transfer, could be to learn management control, or could be the company is sending you overseas to train you and groom you to handle bigger jobs for the future. And it's important, the expatriate needs to learn how to handle all this work and non-work related stress. And finally, cultural adjustment stress. And this we will look at a little bit more in detail after this. Right. Yeah, I just noticed that someone has sent me a question. I had all kinds of person, ages, religion, art, sexes, and expats all over the world coming to our country. Oh, thank you for that. I just noticed that, and Sarah mentioned that that as well. Sarah mentioned that she has lived in 9 countries before. Congratulations. Right. Good. Next slide. I will now talk about some of the key tasks of an expatriate. Well, typically in life of a regular expatriate, what do you expect him to do? He or she to do? Well, most obvious things: work with the local context, interact with local, internal and external clients from home country or from other countries. I mean, after all, you are in the foreign countries, and you are also expected to speak in a different language other than your mother tongue at work, and supervise your employees who are of different nationalities, and do all the nice thing about budgeting. And you need to be always negotiating with the people from other countries, manage your suppliers, and manage worldwide risk. So, and when we look at this here, and when we look at all these activities here, where are we looking at now in terms of being effective? We have to look at also about family issues, which are non-related to work, and in this case are family issues, expatriates traveling with spouse, children, and after all, work is work. After 6, you need to have a life after 6 o'clock. If you are based in a different country for a long period of time, for like more than a year, you need to learn how to make friends outside office. And some of the issues as well inevitably will reflect on your effectiveness as being an expatriate, is areas like connecting with back home and how you manage culture shock. And the best thing about culture shock is it hits us without knowing it. And something which I think many of you out there, I think from the questions, from the response that everyone is sending me now, you have everyone here is very qualified to tell me that you have worked in different countries and from different foreigners, and you yourself could be an expatriate before. You know how is it like when you are in contact with a foreign culture, the kind of shock that you have, even though that you know the country before, you've been to the country before, inevitably there is a culture shock. What is culture shock? Culture shock is actually a psychological state whereby you go through when you live in a country with a different culture, and that the effects of culture shock is that you could feel lonely, you could feel sad, angry, and short-tempered, bored, and all these issues about culture shock. And there's this other issue about culture shock is re-entry culture shock, which is something which is a very understated element in culture shock, because a lot of us are aware of culture shock when we go into a new country. But think again, there is also something called the re-entry culture shock, because this is something that when you have to go back to your home country, there are issues that will shock you. People would not understand you anymore, because when you go home after staying in a foreign country for 5 years, 3 years, whatever, people back home expect you not to change, but you do. And at the same time, when you are based overseas, you expect things to be back home to stand still. Excuse me. The shop and the park and the museum, all the places that you grow up visiting, that you thought will always be there for you when you go home, And sometimes when you go back for a country like where I come from, Singapore, or in Asia in general, every 6 months there is a new building being built. And at the same time, when new buildings are being constructed, old buildings are being taken away. So all these are adjustment issues, not just going to a new country, but adjustment issues of expatriates who've been staying away for a long time. When they come home, things that they hope did not change. Well, that unfortunately it did. Your friends that you used to be calling as your best friend might not understand you anymore. And things that you used to like doing before you left the country, suddenly you felt that, hey, you kind of grown out of it already. Things that you used to like a lot, when you start going back to a country again, you feel that it doesn't feel right. And you start missing all the things that you used to do in the host country or the new country that you just came back from. And all these are something we call the re-entry culture shock, and something which has been ignored by a lot of HR executives who manages international expatriates. And of course, all the nice things, as I'm talking about all these issues facing the expatriates, one key thing that we should remember, all these issues and more, we have to relate to executive coaching as well when we do intercultural coaching or when we do expatriate coaching. Because all these issues, unlike normal executive coaching or business coaching, all these personal issues are never, well, are hardly talked about because it's not handled together. But in expatriate coaching, intercultural coaching, all these issues are very interrelated. One affects the other. Right. And the time now is 20 to 8, right? And we are now into the elements of intercultural issue affecting expatriate coaching and intercultural coaching, right? If you have any questions, just shoot me across the question bar, and that, well, if I can't handle it right now, I can write back to you over email. And if Alejandro can give me a hand or help me to keep an eye on new questions, because I'm looking at the time now that I will be just zooming through, and we will take all these questions at the end of this 15 minutes. Okay. So the next issue is on intercultural issues facing expatriates. So if you think about this proposition here, what are the kind of risks that you have if you are working with different people with different culture that you are not familiar to on an interpersonal level, on team level? Could be that you are a team leader, or could be as a team member. What about a business department where you have to report to a new boss who is from overseas? What are kind of intercultural issues and risks that you need to be aware of, and especially in mergers and acquisition of companies? This is even more important, especially we've seen a lot of examples where French companies buying over German companies, or vice versa, German company buying over French companies. Because of the difference in culture, executives coming from different culture, they have a clash of the titans, a clash of the culture, the clash of ways of doing things. And of course, working in a different country, the expatriates have to be aware of all these intercultural issues facing them. And what would be some of the risks if of facing this kind of situation? Well, there will be lots of opportunities for misunderstanding, conflicts, big and small. When we talk about conflicts, it's it's a very big word, and people think that conflict is something like, oh wow, we have to start a fight and then we have to start shouting at one another, then we call it a conflict. Not really. I was working for a very big a Chinese petroleum company that started its operation in Brazil last year. And I helped them with the negotiation. So I speak Mandarin, Cantonese, Portuguese, and German. So I was contracted there to help them to do all the negotiation translation. And conflicts, big and small. The biggest is that they would be shouting across the table when they discuss with business partners. And the smallest problem, things like if you've been to Brazil, you would know how important a cafezinho is in the morning. A cafezinho means a cup of small coffee. How important it is for local staff, especially for the blue-collar staff, the operational staff, to enjoy their cup of hot coffee in the morning to start the day off. And, well, guess what our friends from the Chinese management say? Coffee? That's a waste of time. Anyway, we don't drink coffee, we drink tea. We're Chinese. Yeah, but what about our colleagues, our local staff? And this causes a lot of stress across the board, from people who are helping them to clean the floor, receptionists, to to our fellow human resource executive who's doing the payroll. Because, I mean, how do you go up to your MD, your managing director, and say, hey, you know, it's very important to have our cup of coffee in the morning because it helps us to work? Well, and my role then was to pick up all these little idiosyncrasies and tell them, well, how much would a cup of coffee cost the company anyway in return for the kind of productivity? Yeah, it is not in your culture to drink coffee, but it is for the local staff. And that it all starts from this kind of awareness that you start questioning them, you start challenging the expatriates about their own values, about what is important in their own culture. Well, it's not important for them in their culture, but it is for the local people. And it creates mistrust, it lowers productivity, stress, anger, sadness. I've seen a lot of local staff as well as expatriate. They break down in tears because of very simple things. Very, very, when you start thinking about it, it's so trivial. But it's all these very trivial things that adds up. And as the saying goes, it's the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Remember that, especially when you're dealing with expatriates. All of this unhappiness, these tiny little things add up one after another, day in, day out. You know, the stress of getting stuck in the traffic in Sao Paulo, and that in Germany, everybody comes on time, leaves on time. But here in Brazil, what happens? People are late, people don't turn up sometimes because they just can't. When the rain start pouring, the traffic stops. And what do? You know, yeah, you're angry at the situation, but don't be angry at the people. Yeah, and what I'm saying is that all these things that you need to start to challenge executives who are working in a different cultural setting about all this, because this becomes very trivial but very relevant issues. And right now, I want to quote my favorite scientist. Oops. I've just been told that my system, okay, right, so I start sharing again. Sorry for the technical issue here. Right, I hope you are seeing the same screen as I do. What does a fish know about the water in which he swims all his life? This is a quote that Albert Einstein mentioned. And when he says this, think about this. Do you think the fish know that it is in water? Raise your hand quickly to tell me if you think that the fish know that it is in water. Raise your hands. If you think that this statement is true. A fish know that it is in water. Now raise your hand if you think that that the fish does not know that it is in water. Who thinks that the fish does not know that it is in water? Great. It's true. Fish normally does not know that it is in water unless it is out of water. And likewise, culture is something like, you cannot know your own culture until you know another. This saying, because unless you are faced with a culture totally different from you, you start questioning about, hey, what is he doing? What is she doing? She doesn't respect me. Oh my gosh, that is totally rude. Yeah, rude to who? That is so impolite. To who? For who? All these things come into play. And one of the examples about being politeness during mealtime is the habit of burping. Well, if some of you who have been to China maybe in the suburbs or in the less developed parts of China, other than Beijing and Shanghai, or maybe in the smaller parts of Shanghai city, a lot of people, when you go out and have lunch with them, what normally happens is that after a very enjoyable meal, they'll start burping. And my ex-colleagues from Germany, they would tell me, oh God, Nick, this is so impolite. I was thinking, impolite, yeah, I'm not quite comfortable with that. So when I start to give some feedback to my colleagues from China, and you know what's the comment my Chinese colleagues tell me? Well, where I come from is the show of sign that I enjoyed my meal. And because burping is a very natural gas coming out from my stomach, it's a natural thing I can't control. And there is also appreciation of the meal I had. Right. Well, take it with a pinch of salt as well. But the idea here is that what is considered polite and rude in your culture, does it apply to another? And I want you to rate yourself now. How much do you know about your own culture, right? Tell me now quickly by keying into the response. 1, if you think that you know almost nothing about your own culture, and 5, if you think that you're an expert. So quickly just key in that now. And I will just read through what are the kind of response we have real quickly. Good. 4 to 5, 4, 3. Okay. This is a very good exercise now. Okay, I would invite everyone to think about it and judge yourself real quick from a level of 1 to 5. Okay. Good. Independent of what your answer is, I want you to look at this example here. This example is happening right now, today. Okay. Google has just joined forces with the indigenous tribe from Amazon to put them online so that to protect their territory. Right? If you are interested on this story, go online and check this out after this webinar. So Google have announced to launch its first of its kind project on Google Earth to produce a cultural map with the tribe from Amazon. And the chief of the tribe, he's called Amir Suri. So it is Amir Suri that approached Google 5 years ago, and that the project is simple, but vital to protect its tribe from deforestation and to continue their way of life. And think of this as an example. And I want you to consider this, put yourself in this position, that if you are the project leader for Google now, and that you invite the Chief Almir to come live and work with you for 18 months so that he can prepare to use all the skills and technology to improve the livelihood of his people. And Chief Amir is a person who have lived and was born in the Amazon forest for all his life. And now he will live in your home and work with your colleagues for the next 18 months. Consider this situation now. Okay? Now, if you consider this situation now, the next slide, I would want you to consider the few questions here. What would you tell Chief Amir? Firstly, before you come to my country, what to prepare before coming to my country? What to tell him about the culture of your people at work? And maybe give him some excitement. What is interesting about your culture? What you like most about your culture? You could be from Poland, from Portugal, Lisboa, from Colombia, Uruguay, Brazil. What would you tell him as well that you like most about your culture? And what are the things that you like least about your culture? And maybe tell him a few tricks and ideas of what it means to be polite in your culture. And lastly, if you could change one thing about your culture, what would that be? So, well, these 7 questions, if one takes these 7 questions very seriously, it is already a very effective way to start a coaching conversation. First of all, with a coach about how he or she as a coach know his own culture. Now, I want you to now to, in your own pace, type your answers in your chat to me so that we are maximizing the last few minutes of our 60-minute webinar, and that answer these few questions if you are the project manager for Google. If you look at this question 1 to question 7, which is the question that strike you most, that you say, gosh, this is something that I don't know about myself, about my culture? Which question lights up to you? Answer that question. So in your chat, you can say, question 3, my answer is this. So let's spend 1 minute on this. Everyone, please participate and put your answers through your chat. Alejandro.
Sorry.
Alejandro.
Yes, here.
Yeah. What about you? What would you think about this situation if you are the project manager for Google, and that this Amazon chief, he's gonna live with you in Buenos Aires for 18 months and work with you for all the projects on Google? What would you, from the 7 questions here, what do you think strike you most?
What I think, sorry, I didn't understand what I think.
Yeah, I mean, do you see the screen here?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, there are 7 questions now that I propose to ask in this this quick exercise. If you are the project manager of Google, and that and you need that Google wants to invite the Amazon tribes to live with you for 18 months so that to learn technology and and bring back the know-how to Amazon. And that this chief will to now live with you for 18 months. Of this few questions here, for example, what would you tell the Amazon chief? What do you like most of your own culture?
So what I will tell him, okay.
Choose a question that you think that strikes you most. I mean, I know I caught you by surprise, Alejandro.
No problem, no problem. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I'm doing this because so that I give time for our other attendees
Yeah.
to think about this for 1 minute as well.
Okay, I take the second question. What to tell him about the culture of your people in your country at work? If I should give an advice on that point, I would tell that 2 words: be specific. Don't be clear on your requests and be specific. Create commitment. Otherwise it's a mess. Things will happen when will happen.
Yeah, be specific. Thank you. Right, I have some answers coming through now, and that I'll just read through you real quickly. Okay. Explain a serious matter about personal hygiene and sanitation. Good one. Question 7, I would change the most common attitude towards the present crisis from negative attitude to a positive goal, targeted and people-oriented attitude. Good one. Explain how people live and behave and the means of relationship with one another. Okay, so good. And another quote from my favorite scientist: if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And my small exercise with Alejandro, well, I think if you grade yourself now from cultural understanding of yourself, the key word you used was 2 very simple words: be specific. Yeah. So I think by saying that, you probably had some insights about culture in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, right? And why I choose this quote from Einstein, because sometimes if you want to explain something to someone, unless you can explain it really simple, otherwise everything can be explained in a very simple way and in a way that can be understood easily. Well, unless the person is not so sure, it comes to be very complicated. So the idea is that if you want to explain culture, the best way is to explain it simply. And now, do this exercise again. Rate yourself again, 1 to 5. This small exercise that we just did. What do you think is the level of your own cultural understanding, your understanding of your own culture? Let's do this exercise real quickly, 30 seconds. After going through this quick exercise, what is your insights? What do you think about now? Is there a difference in how you rate yourself now and 5 minutes ago before you did this exercise? And congratulations if you think that there is something that you need to learn, because I think awareness is always the start about solving any, looking for a solution. And especially in area of intercultural coaching, global coaching, culture is something in everyone's term is very different. And if we look at culture as a dimension, what are the cultural dimensions? There are this list of dimensions, and if you describe culture in any one of this, it is considered culture. Dress and appearance, food habits, feeding habits, sanitary and hygiene habits, relationships, how you make relationship, how you make new friends, how you break relationships as well, time and time consciousness, the values and norms. And for a coach out there, you know how important it is when you conduct coaching in a coaching session about helping the coachee, the client, to discover his or her values behind her work or his work. And other dimensions are like communication and language patterns, work work habits and practice, be on time, or always, like the Japanese, always be on time but always stay overtime, or like the Germans, be on time and leave on time. And some of the things that are mostly left out generally when people think about cultural dimensions are the mental processing and how in each culture we learn things differently. And because we have a very limited time today to talk about cultural dimensions, this is just a teaser for you to start thinking about how well you know your own culture. If you think about your culture and you define them in this briefly 10 dimensions, well, you go very far, and that it will help you to understand about your own culture first and foremost before you can handle somebody else's culture. Because the danger of lack of culture competency is that you assume everyone is the same, and that you make assumptions that might offend and cause conflicts. And because most conflicts are caused by misunderstanding based on wrong assumptions that you think that you're all the same. Well, think again. And that you are unable to perceive all these differences in culture patterns and culture in communication and sense of space and differences in belief and values. You are not, the expatriates, foreigners are not able to perceive and interpret behavior in different cultural contexts. Right. And lastly, I think I will now go through what are the key skills involved in expatriate coaching. Well, expatriate coaching is a form of intercultural coaching. It's a very specialized form of intercultural coaching, because intercultural coaching, we could be dealing with business coaching in general. We could be talking about team coaching as well in intercultural coaching, where the team comes from a totally different environment, and that you are conducting a team coaching session with a bunch of foreigners who are from different countries. But when we talk about expatriate coaching, it's a very special form of intercultural coaching where you're just talking about this executive, normally management executives. And what do you think is important when you're conducting expatriate coaching here? At your own time, you can key in your answers to me, And we are, well, I'm very conscious of time because of my cultural background as well. And in Latin American or South America culture, time is more fluid. Well, my view of time is more fixed in this aspect. Yeah. So I'm going to now run through quickly now with the rest of the slides, and I promise that I will end these sessions in the next 5 minutes. Some of the key skills and prerequisites in expatriate coaching or intercultural coaching would be following: your core competency in coaching skills, ethics. If you have gone through the first level of coaching certification with ICC, with any one of our trainers internationally, you would know how important that we stress from day one of our certification course the ethics involved, the confidentiality involved when you have a coaching session. Trust is fundamental, especially in intercultural coaching and expatriate coaching. Well, foreign language skills will come in handy, because how would you conduct a conversation if you don't speak the coach's language, right? And some cultural competency and intercultural knowledge expected of the coach, because you need to help your client, your coachee, to think in a different perspective. And sometimes, if you are not aware of the cultural dimension and competencies involved in culture aspects, you are not able to challenge him to think differently. And this number 6, overseas experience and working with foreigners. I think as I conduct coaching and as I talk with more and more coaches worldwide, the 6th element is quite optional as I think about it and I discuss with fellow colleagues in the coaching arena, because it all depends on your own personal development. There are some people who have spent all their life traveling, moving from one country to another, but the fact is that they are still not well developed in terms of the cultural competency. It is the same as if you're talking about a person who is 35 years old. Can he or she be developed and matured? Or rather, is he less developed and mature than an 80-year-old person? More developed in what sense? Mature in what sense? What are the experiences the 35-year-old had compared to the 80-year-old? If this 80-year-old has been spending all his life or her life in a small village in Amazon, not in contact with any people, haven't gone through any crisis, have not gone through any changes and adaptations in life, in comparison to a person who's only barely 35, I think a high chance of supporting the 35-year-old who is more developed is much higher. And you see it too each time when you have a conversation with someone, how developed a person is in terms of culturally adaptive, the cultural competency, cultural intelligence is. You know? And lastly, empathy and listening, which is also one of the core skills in coaching. And I will not bore you with this in the core competency skills in coaching, because these are the key skills that we talk about in the certification course anyway. Listening, asking powerful questions, challenging those limiting beliefs, using your intuition, setting goals, leveraging the points, and maximizing change for your clients. How would you rate yourself in all these coaching skills in these areas? Well, only you would know. And ethics, as I mentioned, is something very important here because it's to do with the client confidentiality. And right now, we are coming towards the end of my session here, and I have used up, I think, 5 minutes more than I promised to. And as I mentioned, my feeling and my cultural tendency for time is very fixed compared to fluid. An agenda is very cultural. In what sense do I mean by that? If you have an agenda for a group of people from, let's say, from Germany, agenda, when you present it in a meeting, they would want to go through each and every point in the agenda, and they want to start and end the meeting at the exact time. But then it would not be the same if you talk to a group of people from Brazil, Mexico, and to a certain extent also I think Argentina, where the time concept, the perspective in time is very fluid. Yeah. What is important in this element in time is not the time itself, but the relationship built between people. This is what I'm getting at. And towards the end of this, I hope I hope that the last 60 minutes have helped you to think through some of these elements about coaching and how coaching affects are interrelated with intercultural issues, intercultural coaching, global coaching. Develop coaching practice specialization, a special intercultural coaching would be interesting, because I think as the world gets smaller in terms of mobility, your clients can be from any country. And that if you are interested to participate or to pursue an area of specialization in intercultural coaching, be in contact with me. Send me an email, because very soon I will be putting up a set of training materials and a proper training environment where I combine with in-class training and webinars to help coaches to be specialized in intercultural coaching. And in a way, I would also like to start my own network of people who can help us in terms of minimizing intercultural conflicts and miscommunication. Right. And lastly, I would ask you to just think about 3 words that before I end this session, what you have learned in the last 60 minutes with me. Right. Key in your chat, just tell me briefly in 3 words, or or a short sentence. What were the insights and what were the learning that you have when you leave this webinar that you think has been effective for you? So send me by chat. Just 3 words will be sufficient. Right. So Eva mentioned cultural awareness is the key. Sarah mentioned the possibility of empathy with the client is very important. Thank you for that as well. Right. Sarah mentioned you love to hear about others' experience. Yeah, keep your comments, keep them coming. Yeah. So please, we have about the rest of the participants. I would love to hear from you through your chat. So that just 3 words, what you have gathered from this 60 minutes of webinar. And Virginia mentioned it's not enough to travel and speak languages. It is necessary to learn everything that I've taught you. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I think this 60 minutes is really short. I'm trying to compact so much information and put it in a fun way as well. Yeah. So right. So another 30 seconds. Just key in 3 words what you have learned from this webinar. Adriana, Alba Marina, Katerina, my father. I've not heard from you yet. Ricardo as well. So if you could just key in just 3 words, what was your key learning, I would really appreciate. And it's also a good way that for you to remember to make I do this exercise all the time with myself. Whenever I go to a seminar, I would ask myself this question before I leave. What were the 3 things most important for me that I learned for this session? So that is sufficient. Okay, so yeah, and thank you for your attention, for everyone's participation, and well, send me an email if you have questions, and especially want to stay informed about the exact time and location where the training that I'll be conducting on a special intercultural coaching training for coaches. Let me know, and that we are also looking for partnerships between different countries as well. So this will be a great way that we can start connecting with one another as well. So thank you very much, Alejandro. Back to you.
Many thanks, Nick. Thanks to all of you for being today with us. And well, I'm sure this won't be the last webinar we are going to work about intercultural coaching. I'm sure we'll provide something more soon. So we expect you to be there also, and you will see the recording of this webinar on the ICC website soon this week. So in case you want to review something, you can do that through the ICC webpage. So nothing else than saying thanks again, and see you in next ICC webinar. Take care, and until next webinar then.
Thank you, everyone. See you again soon. Bye.
Bye.